everyone. My name is Lucian Overwell and I'm a junior here at Rye High School. To start off, I would like to thank you all for coming to our Youth Speakout tonight. I hope that you all are enjoying our beautiful showcase of marvelous things that Rye's youth are engaging in. Furthermore, I want to thank Miss Pascal and Miss Dagenhart, who have helped me and my fellow RyeACT Coalition members through this long but very rewarding process that brought us here tonight. The Rye schools, their clubs, their sports teams, their faculty members, and all of the other community members who helped create the displays for this evening are also very much appreciated. We wouldn't have been able to pull off this event without you. Thank you. And thank you to the Rye Arts Center and Rye Recreational Park for hosting us tonight. These facilities are great. I also want to give out a shout out to the fellow RyeACT members. You may have spotted them walking around today with these awesome RyeACT shirts. Although we have only been together for 2 years, you guys all have a very special place in my heart, so thank you. For me, the reasons I joined the RyeACT are pretty personal. After 8th grade, my family and I moved away from Rye to the Netherlands, where I went to an international school. My first week as a freshman here, I got invited to a party at the house of one of my classmates. Given that I was new and did not know exactly what sort of party this was going to be, I did not hesitate to join. After all, a class party is often a great way to make friends. Unfortunately, that night ended up being quite depressing. Through the course of the night, beer, liquor, wine, and other drugs were served to kids. As kids were becoming more and more intoxicated, other drugs started appearing. People were smoking marijuana, people were smoking cigarettes, people were doing all sorts of stuff. To give you all some context, this party was attended by 14 to 18 years old. They were only 14 to 18 years old. The classmates that I had just met the week prior to moving to Holland were wrecks by the end of the night. I saw students falling over and throwing up. One student got so intoxicated that an ambulance had to pick him up. He had to get his stomach vacuumed out. He had that much alcohol in him. He was lucky that someone had called, otherwise he might not have been with us here tonight. This night in Holland taught me all of the anguish that comes hand in hand with substance abuse. When I moved back to Rye, I brought this knowledge with me, and it strengthened my desire to work on drug and alcohol prevention, especially after finding out about some of the shocking statistics of drug and alcohol use here in Rye. Furthermore, when my grandma passed away from lung cancer last year after being a smoker for many years of her life, it strengthened my desire to prevent people from using drugs and alcohol even more. The RyeACT Coalition has given me the perfect platform to do such work on.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Julia Labor, and I'm a junior at Rye High School. To start off, I know my fellow RyeACT members have already done so, but I would just like to thank you all for joining us tonight. We completely appreciate how valuable time is, especially during this season when students are running around with APs and senior internships. But we are incredibly grateful that you took a portion out of your day to spend it with us, listening to the message we are trying to send. Now, I would quickly like to tell you why it was I chose to join this coalition along with other anti-substance abuse groups in Rye. I've never told this story out loud, so hopefully it goes well. When I was 8 years old, my best friend's father died in a drunk driving accident on his way home from my communion celebration. He had been drinking throughout the night and left the party alone on his motorcycle and without a helmet. He was recklessly speeding down the highway when he slammed into a van that was carrying a family. Those in the vehicle all escaped with minor wounds, but my friend's father passed away while being brought to the hospital. This man was like a second father to me. He treated me as if I were one of his kids. Whenever he brought something home for his family, he seemed to ensure that there was always something for me as well, whether that be ice cream, movie tickets, or simply a seat at their dining room table. But in one night of bad decisions, there were no more family dinners, no more afternoons in the treehouse, and no more funny stories about celebrities he pretended to meet. It was as if I had fallen asleep in one world and woken up to a completely different one. I remained scarred by this tragedy for many years, and in a way it shaped a majority of my life. When asked why I do not drink, it is not the many goals I wish to achieve, nor is it the long history of family addiction that pop into my mind. What comes to my mind is this story, the story of a father gone too soon and the family that was left behind in pieces. Thankfully, most people do not have a traumatic event that makes the decision to remain drug-free an easy one. The one problem is that many young adults find themselves debating this question of whether or not to partake in drugs and alcohol, and sadly, many of them often make a harmful decision.
Tonight, you all saw many of the positive things that Rye's youth are engaging in. The reason we shed such a positive light on this is because research tells us that scare tactics are not effective in reducing substance use among teens. We know from student survey data that most adults and students in our community know about the harmful effects of drugs and alcohol. Our school's multiple very successful health and drug education programs cover these topics thoroughly. Instead, tonight we decided to focus on what our peers care about, what motivates us and keeps us happy, healthy, and productive, in the hope that by shining some light on these things, we can help them grow. As fellow RyeACT member states, encouraging and supportive people in my life are who keep me engaged. Tonight, we want to be those people. You may be wondering, how does this relate to prevention? We know that the things we care about, such as the ones displayed tonight, could all disappear through the use of drugs and alcohol. Therefore, instead of focusing on what we are against, we wanted to show you what we are for. In a way, we're saying, look, let's not lose all these great things that we have going on in Rye. During our summer planning meetings and during a prevention training session we attended at the Rye Library a few months back, we learned about this thing called positive culture framework. It goes as follows. By showcasing what we, as young people in Rye, value, we begin to understand Rye's attitudes and beliefs. Through this developed context about Rye, we can start changing people's willingness and attention towards drug prevention. This, if successful, will lead to the eventual change in behavior that we desire. I know this sounds complicated, but research and data shows us that it really works. It's really just 4 words. Values lead to beliefs, which lead to motivation and eventually behavior change. Values, beliefs, motivation, behavior. This framework allows large problems to be tackled in baby steps. We take these taught lessons from the training session to heart when developing our own strategies for prevention. Another important philosophy that we have implemented into our work is that there should be rewards along the way. As fighting a problem such as drug and alcohol use is such a large issue, it is easy to get discouraged. In order to stay on track, we need to celebrate the smaller accomplishments that will all eventually lead to our overarching goal of reducing use. For example, today we are celebrating all of the achievements and successfully completed goals of Rye Youth. I am proud of my peers, and you all are proud of your children. Little goals that you all can implement to help us achieve our broader goal is by having a good relationship with your child. Bridging the gap in opinion between youth and their parents is one of the best prevention methods, and as you all saw tonight, Rye Youth really does value their parents. As fellow RyeACT members stated, my family is very supportive. My happiness is what matters most to them. We believe that this is a shared opinion among all parents. This brings me back to why we are all here tonight. I am here because I want my peers to be healthy, safe, and happy. You all are here because you want your children and fellow community members to be healthy, safe, and happy. Although this sometimes gets lost in a community with innumerable successful people, as fellow RyeACT members stated, these things are still our top priorities, and that is why we work on drug and alcohol prevention.
Tonight, you all have seen that kids in Rye value their families and friends, probably more than anything else. It is because we value you all so much that we put this immense amount of pressure on ourselves to succeed. We yearn to impress and make our loved ones proud. However, while doing so, we sometimes become consumed by the weight of perfection and turn towards unhealthy outlets of release. The youth leaders of RyeACT, as fellow students, as siblings, as role models, as friends, are working with this coalition to create a happier, safer community for our peers and the people we love. This night, it is an example of what we are doing to create an even better community, and your contributions are the last piece to this puzzle. You are our parents, our teachers, our leaders, our mentors, and you are the people we look to for guidance when our lives get overwhelmed with responsibilities and expectations. I cannot yet give a definite answer to how we can rid this community of teenage substance abuse, but I can tell you what it is that I, as a student, a daughter, an athlete, who feels these pressures every day, along with all the other student members of this coalition, are looking for. We hope for people who will listen to the things that bring us stress and guide us in overcoming them, who will celebrate the positive actions we take or the things we may achieve, and, most importantly, who will encourage us to try our best but still support us if and when we fail. All we need is a small reassurance that we will still be loved when we make mistakes. It may seem silly, but is the truth. You are the people who we cherish the most, and yours are the opinions we hold in the highest regard. I'm going to interject a small analogy that may seem unrelated at first, but hopefully it will clear up what I'm trying to say. When I first mentioned to my AP Lang teacher that I would be writing a speech about prevention that would be shared with the Rye community, this metaphor is the one she immediately thought of. Shared by Daniel Foster Wallace at the Kenyon College commencement speech. This comparison seemed to fit perfectly with the point I'm trying to make. There are these two young fish swimming along, and they happen to meet an older fish swimming the other way, who nods at them and says, "Good morning, boys. How's the water?" And the two young fish swim on for a bit, and then eventually one of them looks over at the other and goes, "What's water?" I will not give you an AP Lang level analysis of this analogy. Thankfully, my Lang teacher is not here to see this. But it seems to fit in perfectly. Sometimes we are blind to the things that are most obvious, including potential answers for our problems. We become so focused on anti-substance abuse school assemblies or long, complicated scientific answers on how to get kids to stop abusing drugs that we forget an extremely basic solution, that solution simply being human connections. As a teenager, and one who has her fair share of mood swings and temper tantrums, I can tell you firsthand that we, as young adults, pretend to be above this whole love thing. Many of us don't want to hug our parents in public. We get embarrassed when our little siblings try to talk to our friends and say plenty of awful things to the people we love, awful things that we certainly do not mean. In the end, we are just kids, mature and intelligent, but kids. We still look for the gold star of approval in the eyes of our mentors, and we take it extremely hard when that gold star is replaced with disappointment. We are still at the age where we depend on other people to build us up. If you do not believe in us, then we will not believe in us. I certainly would never have believed I could give a speech in front of an audience, but my mom, Mrs. Pasquale, and Mrs. Dagenhart seemed to believe I could, so here I am. To put my point very bluntly, hug your children, praise your students, support your friends. It seems silly and oversimplified, but if I'm right, and I have a good feeling that I am right, this little bit of extra love will go a very long way. Together, as young adults and as grown adults, we can create a healthier and happier community. Thank you.